Hi everybody, this is Old Man Minecrafting and thank you for joining for another SlimeFun tutorial. Hopefully we'll learn something together and let's get into it. Hi there, this is Old Man Gaming and thank you for coming back to another episode of SlimeFun. So today we're going to be going over just the next logical step. We're going to go through some of these things that you can build in SlimeFun. A lot of these things are not super useful, but they're fun, and we're just going to go through them one by one, just so you have information about the things that we can make in SlimeFun. Most of these things you'll be able to make fairly early on in SlimeFun, but some of these things you won't be able to make right away, and there'll be something that you work towards. But I figure the most logical step would be let's go through the weapons, let's go through the useful items, let's go through the things that we can work on, and then we'll work our way up to actually being able to build them all. Some of them we will be able to use right off the bat. So the first one, we're going to go into weapons. This is again a left click. Okay, so this first item is Grandma's walking stick. This Grandma's walking stick is just a little stick that you can use it has knockback 2 on it to knock mobs away. Not super useful, but that's the next item. The next item is Grandpa's walking stick. This is a knockback 5 item. One of the cool things about these items is later on when we get into disenchanting, we'll be able to take this knockback 5 off of Grandpa's walking stick. So it will be useful at some point if we want to take some knockback 5 off of Grandpa's walking stick and put it on our weapon. The next item is Sword of Beheading. Now, Sword of Beheading is right off the bat is a better Wither Skull farmer than Looting 3. Just the Sword of Beheading by itself is about a 25% chance of getting a Wither Skull. With Looting 3, alone, I think it's a 7% chance or something like that. It's a pretty low chance that you'll get a head off of a Wither Skull, but with a Sword of Beheading, you can have a 25% chance, and with a Sword of Beheading with Looting 3, they do stack. It's about a 35% chance. So I think that's useful. I am in my creative world. I could chop down some withers, but I think that it's just more, you guys know how beheading works. The next item is Blade of Vampires. So the Blade of Vampires is a really cool weapon for early game. Sharpness 2, fine. Fire Aspect 2, fine. Unbreakable 4. So Unbreakable 4 is a step up from what we would have in vanilla. But the cool thing is the lifesteal. Every time you attack something, you have a 45% chance to recover 2 hearts of your health. So if you're using this to farm or to actually fight, you can take health from the mobs that you're fighting. And that's a pretty fairly useful item. This next item is the Seismic Axe. Now this thing is kind of goofy. I'm going to show you how this thing works. You right click it to use. It's just a basic axe. So I'm going to look at my Seismic Axe, and when I click on the ground, it knocks up. You can't really see it, but it's 3 blocks in the direction that you're facing. So if I'm facing the straight ahead, it'll go 3 blocks. It's not 3 blocks from where you click. It's 3 blocks from where you're standing. So this block, and this block will all flip up. I'm going to put a zombie down. I'm in creative right now, but you'll see. So here's my site. I missed it because I'm 3 blocks away. So now I'm going to get a little bit closer, and then it just knocks him up in the air. So not a super useful item, but kind of fun. So if I put my zombie here, get a little bit closer. Again, you have to be 3 blocks away, and sometimes apparently it just does not always work, but it flings him up in the air. So, kind of fun, totally useless in my opinion. The next item is, or I should say the next 3 items are soulbound weapons, the soulbound sword, soulbound trident, and soulbound bow. So these 3 items are really simple. They're soulbound, which means you can put other enchants on it, but the soulbound part means that it's like you have keep inventory on. So it's like you have keep inventory on. When you die, these will come back to your respawn with you. So these soulbound items, I'll show you the armor and other things and the tools as well. But so soulbound items will come with you. It's just like it's keep inventory on. The next item is Explosive Bow. This is a totally useless in my opinion. It might do a little bit extra damage, but not much. Using and not shooting a mob, it just acts like a normal. It just acts like a normal weapon. But when you shoot a mob, there's maybe a little tiny bit of extra damage. Oops, explosive bow. The one thing is, if you're too close, it will also damage you. So so you can get damaged by it as well. Explosive bow, again, kind of a cute thing, but nothing too useful. The next one is actually can be useful, especially if you're into PvP. This is the icy bow. Any arrows fired using this bow will prevent hit enemies from moving for 2 seconds. So if you shoot a mob, if it's coming after you, it will be frozen. It'll be stuck for 2 seconds. So it won't be able to move at all. Okay, so I'm in survival. Now I'm going to put down a zombie. He's chasing after me. I'm going to shoot him with my icy bow. And now he's stuck for 2 seconds. So just that little bit of can't move. Kind of cool. I could definitely see if you like to play PvP and you freeze. And you freeze a mob or a person who's trying to attack you to get away. That seems like it would be really useful. So icy bow. Again, all of these items are cool and fun. I don't know that any of them are particularly useful. Obviously, the soulbound weapons would be helpful as you get into the game. But overall, these things are kind of cute, but nothing too groundbreaking. So anyway, that's all of the weapons in SlimeFun. I didn't show you the recipes. The recipes are pretty straightforward. This is the sword of beheading, magical lumps. We haven't learned how to make that yet, but those are very early game. Those are made just with a nether wart inside of the grindstone. Very doable, and then you combine them to get level 2. So those are very doable. Blaze rods and emeralds, those are things that we'll have access to early on. Seismic axe, hardened metal, those are things that you're going to not have for quite a while. And elemental staff is something that you won't have for till mid-game. So that thing is more fun and not really an early game weapon. The soulbound items, however, Essence of Afterlife, these are things that you're going to get, again, sort of mid-game. And I don't think that they're super useful, so I think that grinding for those would be kind of a waste of time. So the next thing that we're going to look at is useful items. So useful items, these are things that you'll be able to make really early on. This first thing, the portable crafter, this is just a crafting table that you can carry around. This is a vanilla Minecraft table, so it's not an enhanced crafting table, it's a vanilla crafting table. So you'll be able to just right click this in your inventory and use that. Portable dustbin, made with iron ingots, something that you'll have early game. This is basically just a trash bin. I always just throw stuff on the ground and let it despawn. But if you have a need to destroy a bunch of items, this is you right click this to open it, and then you could throw some items in there to be destroyed. The next 3 items are fairly, I don't really think that I would have a lot of use for these, but let's look at them anyway. The level 1 is a rag. Restores 2 hearts and extinguishes fire. So if you're being injured, it's very easy to make, but having these rags, they do stack, so I guess carrying them around could have some uses. But unless you're fighting a whole lot, I don't see that they're extremely useful. A cloth is just made with white wool. You make 8 pieces, so 2 rags will take a little bit less than 1 white wool and 2 strings. So I think that those things does have to be white wool. It can't be any other wool. Bandages is just a level 2 medical supply. Very similar. Restores 4 hearts, extinguishes fire. So these take 2 rags that we just showed and then a string. So it's a little bit more expensive, but these are very, very cheap items. If you have a use for restoring some hearts and extinguishing fire, I guess those would be worth carrying around. And the splint is again stackable, restores 2 hearts, something that you carry around. This is very cheap, 3 sticks and then 2 iron ingots. So you can make this early game if you have access to a bunch of iron. Again, I just don't see that these are extremely useful. The next item is vitamins. This item is fairly expensive to make. Sugar you have access to. Apples can, depending on what kind of biomes you have around you, you can find some apples. Red mushrooms, again, if you're in a dark oak forest, you can get these things fairly easily. But for 4 hearts, extinguishes fire and cures poison. I guess if you were in a situation where you were going to be maybe fighting the withers, maybe these would be a good item to carry around. But these are not cheap items. Tin can, we haven't talked about making tin ingots yet, but we will do that. These are fairly cheap as well. Tin is easy to come by, and makes 8 tin cans. So this is an item like if you're going to be in a situation where you might be around wither. We haven't talked about radiation at all, but radiation is something that you'll deal with later on. But we'll try to work around radiation and trying to fight through it. So this item, I could see it being a little bit useful if you were just bored and wanted to make something different. This is crafted in an enchanted crafting table, but vitamins are useful, just not extremely useful. The next item is medicine. Total waste of time, in my opinion. I cannot see any reason why I would ever make this or use this. Heavy cream is just a milk bucket. Inside of an enchanted crafting table, you get 2 heavy creams. Fairly cheap, glass bottles, fine, and then vitamins that I showed you before. So this is not super expensive, but the things that you get for it are exactly the same that you would get for vitamins. So I really do not understand why you would ever do this, especially since vitamins are stackable and medicine is not. So I would just highly recommend not using that unless there's some recipe or something later on that we would need to use. Okay, the next item is a backpack. So these are things that you're actually going to want to use. So a backpack is fairly cheap, leather, 5 pieces of leather, gold ingots, 6 carat. So we'll talk about the different carats of gold. There's many different variations of it. So it's fairly cheap when we start making our ingots from dust. But this thing is pretty nice to be able to carry around. The small backpack only has 9 slots, so not extremely useful. But as you go up, and again, the carats of the ingot goes up, so it's still a similar recipe. 2 gold ingots. This one's 10, the next one's 12, the next one's 14. Some leather, and then your previous backpack. So the next level is 18, so on and so forth until you get all the way up to the radiant backpack. Once you get to the radiant backpack, you need 24 karat gold, 2 pieces of leather, and then your 45 packet backpack. So this backpack has 54 slots that you can just click from your inventory. So you click it from your inventory, it opens up. It's like having 2 inventories. So that's really nice. The next thing is a cooler. Again, I just don't see the value in this. This allows you to carry juices. So you can carry 27 juices. And I haven't shown you the juices. The juices are from fruit that we'll talk about at some point at some video. But this is just not an extremely useful item. It's not very hard to make. Early on, you'll have to learn how to make an electric motor, which is not cheap, but it's basically ice, 2 aluminum ingots, which we'll talk about, and electric motor. So this item, the juices don't stack, so you can only carry 27 around with you. They do heal you a little bit, but not an extremely useful item. This last item I'm going to talk about is a tape measure. Tape measure is actually kind of cool. It does have a weird limitation, but it's actually a fairly cool item. Just looking at how to make it, it requires 4 yellow dye, a string, some silicone, which is made from a block of quartz. We need 3 of those. Quartz is fairly doable early on, and then some gilded iron. Gilded iron is something that's going to take a little bit to get to. Once we're creating gold and iron dust, we'll be able to make some gilded iron. So not an extremely expensive thing, and kind of fun, but also can be useful in some situations. So I'm going to show you how the tape measure works right now. So we all know that a chunk is 16 by 16. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to duck and I'm going to right click. That sets the anchor. So I'm measuring from this spot right here. my lime die is one chunk, so this block that I'm looking at right here should be 16 blocks away. So when I right click on it, oh, it only says 15. And that's just a weird limitation. It does not start counting from the block that you set the anchor on. It starts from the next block. So if you're 16 blocks away and you're trying to figure out how far something is, and this thing will measure as far as you want to measure. So if I'm way off in the distance and I click, I'm kind of at a diagonal, so I don't know what number it's going to throw out at me, but it will measure. So it's measured. I'm now 40.311 blocks away. So it's somewhat useful, especially if you're trying to measure like a long distance, if you want to measure something far away, but you have to remember that it's going to count from the first block. But you have to remember that it doesn't count from the first block, it counts from the second block. So if I move down here, this is going to say that it's only 15 blocks, but in reality, this is 16 blocks away from my anchor point. Kind of a lame limitation, but I don't know. It's kind of nice if you have to measure something a long way. Definitely has its limitations, but again, something that's, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, usefulness of a 2 or 3 if the situation were perfect. Okay, so that's the useful item section. So again, just like the weapons, there's some interesting things, some moderately useful things. The backpack is very useful, I think. Something that I usually carry around with me, and some just completely waste of resources. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys what was in here. I really appreciate you guys coming and checking out my video, and I will continue going through SlimeFun and learning about some of the other things that we can build in it. So hopefully you learned something. If you did learn something, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.